So, can someone please explain to me why the only time that I, as a black person, feel American is when I'm not in this country? Hey y'all, what's good? This is Nade back with episode 2 of my travel channel. And before I get started, I just wanted to address the obvious because, as I'm sure most people are aware, not only are we living through a pandemic, but many countries are on fire right now. Specifically in America, a lot of shit. And as I was thinking and processing everything that's going on, I realized that the only time that I, as a black person, actually feel American or am actually considered or acknowledged American is when I'm not in this country. And that's important to me because that means that the only time I'm really considered equal is when I'm not here. So, with that being said, let's get to today's episode, which is, does American privilege, if that's even a thing, extend to black people? So, like I said earlier, most of the time I don't really wake up feeling connected to America. And I don't really feel connected to being American. And I get why, because it's not like most people wake up every day and think, oh, let me brush my teeth, I'm American, and go about their day, right? Like, you don't usually think about your nationality because you live here, you exist here. And there's so many other factors of your identity that you think about first or you are connected to first. But for me, as I really took a cold and hard look at it, I felt like the reasons why I'm disconnected are really so rooted in me being black. And I really wanted to unpack that. Yes, I will acknowledge that I have benefited a lot from being American. I was born here, I was raised here, and so I've had access to a lot of privileges and a lot of opportunities that have helped me grow into the person who I am today. And at one point, I even felt like I would only ever get these privileges and opportunities if I lived and existed in this country. But as I've read more, as I've educated myself more, I realized that that's no longer the case. But regardless, I sort of feel like even though, I'm thankful for what I've been able to learn and do here, I live here and I exist here, but I'm not perceived as an American while I'm in this country. Now, before y'all come for me, yes, I know my family is from Ghana, and so I myself have a very complex definition of what it means to be American because, my family is from elsewhere. And I believe, or I don't believe, that my Africanness or being from Ghana is why I'm detached from being American. Because again, I grew up here, I've been here long enough to be able to call myself that or to consider myself that. But I truly do believe that the reason why I feel disconnected is because the only time that people see me as a black person, don't know where I'm from, don't know that my family's from Ghana, the only time they see me as American is when I get called that is when I'm overseas. The only time that people perceive you as being American is when they know you're not from the country that you're currently in. They hear your accent or they see the way you dress and they can tell that you're not from here. But then they're so quick and so happy to label you as an American based on what they hear or what they see. And they're immediately ready to give you all the good privileges that come with being an American. What's crazy about this is that these are some privileges that you don't even get when you're back home in your own country, even though you're supposed to. So it's like they take all of the connotations and their perceptions of what it is to be an American and they impose that on you. Because now it's like, we have this cashy American who can come in and spend money. So they're like, come into our restaurants and come have a conversation with us about politics and who's your president and how you feel about it. It's like they're nice to you. And sometimes that can be a good thing, or it's like a situation that you benefit from. And other times it can be a very frightening or very jarring experience. Aside from all that, I feel like ultimately you now have this opportunity to be seen as a full citizen of America, which, is a stark contrast to the way that black people actually get treated in America, or the way that you feel day to day. And, I was reading this article in The Atlantic by Kimberly Springer, and she made a comment that really resonated with me. And she said that, when you're overseas, you're seen as American first and black second. And that really resonated with me because I felt that. It's like, when you're in America and you're a black woman, you get seen as how people want to see you. So whatever person's, negative or positive stereotypes or associations with Black women, whatever associations they have, that's how they treat you. And so you're sort of at that person's, mercy or ignorance. Whereas when you go overseas, you're now treated as this like cash happy, spend money American. And I really feel like in America, it's the opposite, like where you're seen as Black first and American, or a person second. Overseas, you're seen as a person first and Black second. And again, it's jarring because it's almost like they think they see me as more of an American than I see myself. Because again, like being Black in America, I see myself as Black or Ghanaian or Black American or Ghanaian American or whatever the hyphenate is first before I see myself as an American. So it's jarring to have to be perceived that way. But I feel like regardless of what your status is in America, like your financial background, the minute that you travel overseas, you're sort of elevated to this new elite status because you're a tourist. And yes, that's elitist and it's classist, but what I mean is that like you being a tourist and you coming from America puts you in a whole nother category that you're not even or that you might not be in the States. I'm not speaking for everyone. And that's weird because how can I go from being so undervalued and so unappreciated in my own country to now being this elite tourist in another country? How is it that people overseas are so willing and so gladly to bestow this sort of status of being a citizen or the status of being a person? Like, how is it that they can see me like that, but the people in my country who are meant to protect and serve me don't? How is it that my police officers, my teachers, my local legislators, whomever don't see me as American and don't see me as a person? That shit don't make sense. And I know why. I'm not playing ignorant. I know why. Many people know why. But it's just frustrating and annoying to have to deal with. I mean, it's annoying to have to realize that the unalienable rights that I'm supposed to be entitled to in this country don't actually apply to me, or that those same rights only apply to me when I leave. Like, make it make sense. That's like saying the only time that you're allowed to eat a good meal at a restaurant is after you leave. Like, come on, stop. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I love being Black, wouldn't change it for the world. And I feel like many Black people feel the same way. But let's be real. There are very serious legal and safety implications that come along with being Black in America. So it's a really trippy experience to have to go from knowing all of that to now being seen as, some jolly old American overseas. Like, how am I supposed to just sit here and pretend to be okay with the way that y'all treat me because of my nationality? Or how am I supposed to sit here and, feel connected and feel tied to this culture that doesn't reflect who I am and doesn't want me? And so I think, and I would implore people to really think about their relationship with their nationality overseas. I mean, even if you're not American, because it's like, I'm not making comments about how I feel about this country in this video, but I am saying just think about that. If people liking your nationality more than you do, and you now having to accept and to own that when it's never owned and accepted you wholly, it is a very, I don't want to say divisive, but it is a very alarming way to have to exist when you just trying to drink some mimosas in Bora Bora. Like, fam, I just came to relax. I didn't come here to educate you and talk to you about being American. But it's something that you grow with and you deal with and that you learn to understand as a Black traveler. Now, are foreign countries exempt? No. A lot of countries have their own issues with anti-Blackness, with xenophobia, and even the fetishization, you know what I'm trying to say, of Black women. Like, they're not absolved or exempt from those issues. And it's not like when you go overseas, you're now, getting away from oppression. Oppression exists everywhere, sadly. But in other places, I feel like it's more subdued. Yeah, and I'm not trying to sit here and make it seem like living overseas and being in a foreign country is this utopia that's rid of problems. There's going to be issues everywhere that you go. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what issues do you care about the most, and what issues are you willing to deal with? And, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, but I do think there's a good reason why there's a growing number of Black expats overseas, right? And so I guess my takeaway from this rant or this video or this discourse on being Black in America versus being Black overseas is that I just want everyone to think about what you value in a society and what sort of social services you care about, and really take stock of those things, and then ask yourself, is that country serving you? Point blank, period. And if it is, great. If it's not, then change it. Figure out what your place is in this social change agent system and figure out what role you can do to demand change and make room not only for yourself but for others. But if that's not what you want to do, or you feel like you try and make these changes and they're ignoring you, they're refusing your demands, it might be time to dip for real. Like, there's a reason why so many Black revolutionaries left. And while I get that leaving isn't necessarily a fair solution to this issue because we still have to hold our systems accountable, it might not be a bad idea. And yes, I do also understand that leaving and just completely uprooting yourself from your family and your job and whatever ties you've made to this country may not be easy or may not even be affordable or may not be realistic for everybody. I get that. And again, that's not why I'm saying that's the only solution. I'm just saying I'm not mad at you if that's the solution that you choose. Because again, if the social services in your country aren't serving you, bye. Like, go where you're going to be valued. And also, just think about the term leaving. Leaving doesn't necessarily mean permanently moving out of the country. Leaving could mean going for 2-3 days, going to a new city. Or leaving could mean 6 months to a year. Or leaving could mean I'm not touching a foot on this soil again. It really all depends on what you want to do. But I would challenge you and urge you to think about how you can envision a life that accommodates what you want. If you want free childcare, free healthcare, the U.S. may not be it. And so I think as, America is starting to, blink and have a little bit more consciousness about race in this moment, I also urge you to factor that consciousness into your travels as well. So really envision yourself maybe living or going somewhere else. But when you travel, pick cities that have strong Black cultures, or pick cities where you can learn about the Black history, or go out and find the Black history in said city. Don't just feel compelled to go to Western Europe because that's sort of what we've been conditioned to think. Don't just feel like Africa is one continent and you can continue to just call it Africa. Don't be afraid to think that it's too difficult to go to Western or Eastern or Southern Africa or any of the regions within the continent because it's too expensive. Don't let all of the statements that have been made about traveling prevent you from being exposed to Black culture, because there's so many ways and people that you could connect with that I really think it would benefit Black people everywhere, but just Black people in general. So add more countries, do some research, add those countries to your bucket list. I know that I definitely will. And I'm not a saint. A lot of the travels that I've gone through or a lot of places that I've been to have been in Western Europe. But as I'm also having this awakening myself, I'm pivoting to go to countries where I feel like I'm going to be valued, not for my nationality, but for who I am. And going to places where I also want to learn about their cultures, and not just going because I've heard about it or I saw a cute picture or that's where everybody goes. Not that that's why I go places, but you know. So thanks for watching. I obviously don't speak for all Black people. I only speak for myself. So please don't feel like what I'm saying represents how everyone feels. I just wanted to voice my opinion. So I'm very curious as to how other people feel about their nationality and their Blackness and how that perception has changed when they're overseas versus in their home country. So if you have comments or beliefs or anything that you want to say, please share it in the comments. Light my comments up, because I'd be curious to know. But I just didn't feel right about not having this conversation given all that's going on in the world. So as you know, a lot of us are fighting for rights and are fighting for the basic, most decent human rights. I find that it doesn't have to be this way. And seeing other countries and seeing other models of just sort of society makes me realize that it doesn't have to be this way. But if the country that I live in doesn't want to listen up, I'm going to take that and remember that. So don't be surprised if y'all catch me on a sabbatical in a year or two somewhere else. That's all I'm saying. And I hope that you feel compelled or feel motivated and empowered to research things, research other places, and research Black culture. So peace out, y'all.
I got 3 seconds to figure it out, yeah. I'm working hard and I'm building my cloud, yeah. Believing in me, not hearing no doubt, yeah. None of these haters can figure it out, yeah. Like I'm a skater, skate circles around, yeah. Throw all my paper, I hope it don't drown, yeah. My nose ain't red, but I'm finna get clowned up.